Welcome to the MorningStar Podcast, a space for real conversations and shared experiences. Together, we'll explore the ideas and stories that inspire, guide, and connect us all. Let's get started. The MorningStar Podcast discusses topics related to recovery, addiction, and mental health, which may be sensitive for some listeners. We are not medical professionals, and this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or treatment. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, guys, welcome back. MorningStar Podcast, Cray here. Friday afternoon, nice day coming in, end of May, early June. I don't know, it doesn't matter. I've been out for a couple weeks. I'm back now. I walked into work today and said, "Hey, these guys from Task Force are coming in, and this is an episode we've been wanting to have on for a while now, and we're really excited to have these guys in." What usually when I come in, I try to give a little introduction on the people that come in, but I got to be completely honest. I don't know these two very well, and that's okay. But what I do know is what they do for work with their MHA. Well, I do know they're employed by the MHA Drug Task Force. That being said, I don't really know what they do for work, and I think it's really important that we have these individuals on so that we can kind of have a better and deeper understanding of what it is and how impactful these organizations are to our community and to our members, and exactly like what we can all benefit from just hearing the idea of we don't know what we don't know about this stuff. And I know when I was going through my stuff, I had an idea of what law enforcement was and why they were my enemy, and why I chose not to look at myself and the actions that I made and that I caused within my own life to have that idea, to have that conception within my mind. And when I sobered up and over the years that I've been able to do it, I have had some of these conversations before with these individuals, and some of them are my friends, with different law enforcement agencies. And what I can honestly say is, at the end of the day, we're all still people with emotions and feelings and hearts and souls and justifications and obligations to what we have to do. And I think it's really important that these stories come out and the picture gets painted a little bit fuller for everybody. And so anyway, I'm really excited about that. So can you guys just go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick and get into it?
Yeah, my name is Brittany Larvey. I'm an enrolled member of the Rosebud Sioux Tribe out of South Dakota.
Yep.
I've been employed with drug enforcement since 2018. I've been in law enforcement for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
I'm a patrol agent with drug enforcement. I was a canine handler, but my dog retired May 1st.
Okay. Does your dog still live with you?
Yes, he still lives with me. His name is Ricky. All
right. Outstanding. Good. Yeah. Welcome.
My name is Nate Miller. I'm from Montana. I originally started in law enforcement in about, I think, 2003 in Billings, Montana. I worked at the jail there for the sheriff's office. Got out after about 3.5 years, did other stuff, went back into law enforcement. And then I eventually came out here in 2012, started at the jail here, and then quickly went over to the police department, where I became canine for them in 2016. And then in 2017, I went over to drug enforcement as a canine handler for them. And I've been with them ever since. I'm on my my dog for drug enforcement, Broder, passed away in July last year. And so I have another dog named Zorro. We've been partners for about a year now. So.
Okay. So you guys are both in the canine handler?
Yep.
Canine handlers? How does that happen? Do you get to dictate that in your career that's something you want to pursue?
So for me, when I worked for TATPD, Lane Adams was the first canine handler for them, and his dog Nero. He eventually went to the BIA, and I had trained with Lane and Nero. I took care of Nero when Lane was out of town. I had a good relationship with Nero. And so when he, and I was getting into drug work, drug enforcement started, I think they started doing cases around 2015. I know they originally started earlier than that, but I think they started working cases in about 2015. So I started working with them. They would, tell me to look for and things like that. And so I started to get interested in drug work. And so when Lane went to the BIA, I told the chief at the time, like, hey, I have the best relationship with Nero. I've trained with Nero. I would like to take on Nero and be his handler after Lane leaves. And I got to go do that.
Right. That's outstanding. How about you, Britt?
You have to be a very proactive
Sure.
officer in order to get selected as a canine handler.
And when you say proactive, can you just kind of define that in terms
Yeah.
of like taking initiative and?
Yeah, you have to be a go-getter.
Sure.
Get out there, make a lot of traffic stops.
Sure.
Not technically not somebody who's just writing citations, taking that traffic stop to the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to dig.
Sure.
Looking for drugs,
Yeah.
any other criminal activity,
Yeah.
and not just stopping at a citation,
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
doing more work. And that's what I was doing when I was at my previous department. And I became great friends with Nate when he was at Drug Enforcement. And he noticed that and then recommended I switch over to
Yeah.
Drug Enforcement.
Yeah.
Because since I became a patrol officer, I knew I wanted to work
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah. When you when you kind of mentioned the idea of the traffic stop and kind of taking it a little further, again, this is the mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was out doing my thing, right, and we would get pulled over, if I had something on me and it was immediately tuck it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you gotta do something with it, and you're sweating and you're
Yeah.
freaking your Crown Royal pouch and your drawstring, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I
Call
mean?
that probable cause.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every time we see that Crown Royal bag in a car, we're like, ooh, here it is.
Grew up.
And then every once in a while, it'll be
Grew
like a bunch of cell phone chargers and plug-ins. And I'm like, random
Grew
gas
up,
station things, flashlights,
That
flash
Crown
drives.
Royal, that Crown Royal bag was a freaking rite of passage growing up, man. I mean, you were a somebody if you had, especially if you had a fresh one, you know what I mean? Because then you could, like, you're 18 years old and you can afford Crown Royal, you know, like you were a somebody at that point. But that was the mindset, right? Is like, get pulled over. Obviously, you're hot, you know, and you're just trying to find a way out of the thing that you put yourself in to begin with, and then. As I've gotten older, right? I'm 38 now. I'm married. I have kids. And my wife's pregnant. Baby on the way. Like we have a good life. You know, I've been able to do the things I've been able to do to get where I'm at today, right? And I look at the situations now. What we do here is a form of grace, right? It's a form of opportunity and second chance and understanding. And we hire individuals like us because, in a way, it's sort of the qualification of it. At the same time, it's like. I just be honest, and this is just my opinion. I don't want to speak my opinion, or this isn't the opinion of MHA Recovery or anything like that. But like, what you guys do is fundamental to getting people here in the first place as well. You know what I'm saying? We can't just come in and protect everybody from the circumstances that they place themselves in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's also like that misunderstanding, you know, of what the essential function of law enforcement is. And also the idea of like, I have meetings all the time where I'm like, you know, like I have somebody I have to report to. You have somebody you have to report to. We have a job description. We have what things we need to meet, you know, and it's the same thing, you know, it's the same idea. Like I want to be a canine handler. Well, I want to be this, you know? And so it's, I don't know. I think I understand it. And I think it's important for you guys. Like, let me just ask you, when you guys kind of have gone into those not even opportunities, those situations, right? Is there a human element that you try to bring in? Like, does that make sense? Like just an understanding of this is just what we have to do today in this time, in this circumstance. This is what we're doing.
So it kind of depends. Like, you know, when I'm pulling over the local user, we try and talk to them on the human level after, like, hey,
sure.
you know, like, I understand, like, you know, the local users aren't who we're after. We're after the people from the outside that bring it here.
Yep.
You know,
100%.
because those are the predators.
Yep.
Right. And so those are the ones that we're after. But in order to get to them, a lot of the time we have to go through the users, and that's the game.
Yep.
And so we try and approach them like, hey, you know, you're not our end goal. Like, I don't want to put you in prison. I don't want you to be indicted. Like, I want you to get sober. But in order to do that, let's work together. Right.
Yep.
Let's get the people that are bringing that poison here, you know. And it just hit home this week because we had somebody die, you know, and it sucks. I've known him since he was a kid, and it sucks. And I just talked to him on the 29th.
Yep.
You know, and that is why we do what we do, so that you can be here talking to me with your family. You have a job. You know what I mean? That is the end goal.
100%.
Like, I want everyone to be in this position. You know, I don't want to ruin people's lives.
100%. And I think here's a little bit about what I know about you guys. I know your name. I know your names. Social media. You know, MHA tribal politics.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
you've been on there a couple times.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And like, I know you guys are active in the community outside of work, right? And so, kind of another question. So, you guys work in the community and live in the community. It's not a big community. Have you found that to be advantageous, or does it have its struggles at the same time?
No, I think it's really advantageous. Like, you get to know everybody.
Yep.
You know, and this job, and it becomes personal. Like I said, you know, with this recent death, it affects me. Mm-hmm. I've known him since he was a kid. It hurts me.
Yep.
You know, and like I said, you know, we see you guys, we see everybody at the grocery store. You know, we go to the grocery store, we go to the C-store, we go to Eels Landing, we go to the casino. We see everybody. You know, we live there.
Yep.
You know, and we get close to their family members. You know, like I'm connected with everybody, and it's hard. So it's.
How about you, Britt?
As much as we come in contact with these people, even though it's on bad terms, you kind of build a bond with them.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, you see them at their lowest points.
Yep.
You see them in their dark times.
Yep.
You see them at their worst more than their own family members do. And when you lose them,
It sucks.
it sucks. It affects it.
Yep.
Like,
Another
sometimes-
one.
Yeah, sometimes I had a group of girls that I always kept close to me, and I would always tell myself this might be the last time I see them.
Yep.
Dez was one of them. Tony was one of them,
Yep.
and I lost one of them. And it sucks.
Yeah. I think Des and Tony are perfect examples of why we do what we do. You know, why you guys do what you do, why this system is what it is, and how it's designed. You know, there's this idea of, you know, cause and effect, or crime and punishment, and it doesn't. Perspective goes a long way, you know, and I think perspective can easily change at the same time. And like you guys, we see people come in every day, and nobody comes in here on a good day. You don't come in here on a winning streak. You don't come in here because the lights are on. You know, it's the complete opposite. And we, you know, it's every day. It's sort of almost putting your emotion at the door. You know, it's like you kind of have to check it, because I don't get to like project my sorrow or joy or anger at what you're doing in this time, because I know that when I came in, I was under the same. I was living in the Motel 6. I was on felony bond. I was unemployed. I didn't. You know what I mean? All the things that we come in. You know, and I don't get to pretend that I have the magic cure, the magic thing. I mean, all it was just a group of individuals that I had to almost like get through, you know, I had to get through law enforcement. I had to get through the courtrooms. I had to get through the psych evals, et cetera, to get to where you're at today, you know? And it's like, there's some place that it needs to start, and there's some place that we have to identify where it's going to click. And it might be with you guys, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's imperative that the perspective of like, man, whatever law enforcement, whatever cops, whatever this, whatever that, it doesn't need to be like that, right? It doesn't need to be like that today, you know? But anyway, with MHA, so with MHA Drug Task Force, can you guys just sort of go over the jurisdiction of it? Is that all right to do? Can we do that?
So we have jurisdiction if you're enrolled in a federally recognized tribe or enrollable, or we have jurisdiction over you.
Okay.
If you are not enrolled,
Was it eligible to be
eligible,
enrolled?
yeah.
Eligible to be enrolled.
Or if you've used the services of IHS, or even there's case law out of Crow Indian Reservation that if you have allowed tribal court, if you're non-enrolled, but you've allowed tribal court to have jurisdiction over you once, tribal jurisdiction now, it's over you. You know what I mean? Like, and
that doesn't have to be on the reservation.
It's on the reservation.
Okay.
Yeah. So with non-enrolleds, there's case law where we can stop them. And if we suspect criminal activity, we can conduct an investigation. And then we have to, the state agency has to come, and if it's arrestable at that moment, they'll take custody of that person. If it's not, then it goes forward to U.S. attorney and indictment and grand jury and all that stuff.
Sure. Okay. And then being, I don't know, just sort of working on Fort Berthold, how about some of from when you started, from the beginning of your career, I suppose, to where you're at today? What changes have you seen within that? I mean, obviously there's been the oil, you know, all the energy that's kind of come in. Have you guys, I have to assume that impacts the work you guys do tremendously as well, in terms of money brings in whatever outside, you know what I mean? Like money is
a great thing.
Yeah.
But it can be a curse too.
Yeah. 100%. Have you guys kind of bear witness to that? Does that resonate within the agency?
So I've been out there since 2012 when the oil boom was going on.
Yeah.
I was there when the boom kind of died.
Sure.
And then it's kind of come back. And honestly, drugs have stayed the same, if not have gotten worse. You
Sure.
know, when I came in, it was 2012, and the feds had just finished their Operation Winter's End, which was their big heroin thing.
Yeah.
And then meth came. And then I remember pulling cars over in early 2015 and seeing the foils with the burn marks. And I'm like, I know this is drugs, but I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know what they're doing.
Sure.
So I wasn't making arrests at the time because I didn't know. And then come to find out it was Oxycontin and Percocets.
Yeah.
And then now we've moved on to fentanyl.
Yeah. Do you find that to be the main driver these days? Fentanyl?
Fentanyl?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have initiatives? Does the MHA Drug Task Force have initiatives that try to target specific drugs, specific timelines of how to do it? Or is it just
We're
kind
just
of
always out there
be
trying
proactive?
To, if we get, you know, we're out there trying to be proactive. I can go into interdiction a little bit, what criminal interdiction is. And, you know, you can make traffic stops all day off of no registration and not using your blinkers and headlights, but it's kind of a lottery. You know, you might get lucky every once in a while.
Yeah.
But there are trainings that we go to that teach you pre-stop indicators, what to look for before you even stop somebody to notice criminal activity, because there are certain signs, and there are people that have been, I mean, these are big time drug traffickers. And a lot of times the drug traffickers too are just normal people, and they've come on hard times and they're like, hey, you want to make some money?
Yep.
You know, I stopped 2 old ladies that had just delivered 25 pounds of meth to Surrey. I mean, they're 50s, 60s. They drove from California and delivered 25 pounds of meth to Surrey. And we stopped them after. And I think we got like $50,000, $60,000 and a few ounces of meth. So it's not your typical, crappy res car, guy covered in tattoos. It's the big traffickers are usually just everyday people that just fall on hard times and they want to make some quick money.
Yeah, my largest seizure was a white lady who used to be a nurse at a recovery center.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. What's the story with that?
I can't remember the backstory on it, but yeah, she was in a rental.
Okay. She used to be employed in a recovery center, and
Yeah, she used to be. Then that's where she met her connection.
Yep.
Needed to make some money, and then got, if I remember correctly, she got connected to the cartel.
Yep. When you kind of mentioned, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, you mentioned Dez and Tony and some of the, like when I think of those two, it really is kind of the utmost respect of what is possible, what is made possible. Because I know their background. I get to spend significant time with them, and I get to watch them as women in recovery and mothers and daughters and all of the stuff, right? And really fully entrusted employees within MHA recovery, and you don't get that. You don't get there without putting in the work, without putting in the action, And again, like when this thing started, MHA recovery started, whatever, 9 years ago at this point. And Good Road was breaking ground, and some of these guys were down in Arizona just getting people to treatment, right? Like that was sort of the genesis of it. And then I'm just trying to remember what the world looked like back then. Oil was still doing its thing. Obviously, growing up in Fort Berthold was immensely different 30 years ago. Yeah. There were no oil flares. You could leave your door unlocked. You could, it was, I don't know. I would staying at my grandparents' house in Parshall. It was a very simple time, literally 30 years ago, and just kind of how it's changed today and what it looks like today. Do you guys take, obviously, you guys live in the community, but like how much pride do you have to take into the work that you do? And then knowing that when you've gotten home that you did everything you possibly could to make the community a safer place. Does that play into how you operate?
I know we both have a thing, like every pill we get off the street, we saved a life.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a little,
that's fair.
Even if it's one pill.
Soul.
Because you look at, like everybody wants a big bust. Your big bust was like 2,500 pills or something like that. And some meth and a gun. That's huge. That's a lot.
Sure.
Street value of that, $80 a pill. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But you stop that one user, you get that one pill, you may have saved their life tonight. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that, you have to go home with that mentality and like, I didn't get a bust today. I didn't get that huge bust. I didn't get the plug.
Yeah.
You get that pill, you save that person's life. You potentially save their life, and
every pill I get is like I call it a little soul.
Yep.
A little soul I saved.
Yep. So, you have that pride. Some dude got called in on the bridge just a few days ago, walking on the wrong side of the bridge. And they check on him. He's got a warrant, the nationwide extradition warrant for kidnapping. Mm-hmm. And so we get there. He knows he's going. He tried to jump off the bridge.
Sure.
Yeah, and we stopped him. And you get down. You're like, man, dude, that was crazy. And you do feel every time you do something like that, you always have pride. And then you have days like the other day where you feel like a complete failure.
Yep.
Every time you have to go to an overdose and it's a death, you feel like a complete failure, and it sucks. It's hard. Like that's having to look at their family and just say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's more days where I feel like I'm not doing enough, and then something happens at work where I'm like, okay, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I can feel that. On a personal note, how do you manage the heaviness of the work you do and the things that you have to see and that you have to deal with? Like, you have families at home. How do you kind of navigate that?
Talk to coworkers.
Sure.
Yeah. We gotta talk. I
feel like they're the only ones who understand.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Because you can't tell normal people about this stuff because they just don't get it.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, talking to coworkers, seeking out therapy.
Yeah. I seek out therapy.
Yeah. Therapy. I started it. I had to. I've been in this job a long time, and you know, PTSD is cumulative.
Yep.
It all adds up. And if you don't, and finding with some of a family members, their own physical health, that trauma causes you to have all these weird diseases. It's not just like being sad and depressed. It actually affects you physically, and you can start getting diseases and sicknesses from trauma. And I didn't believe it until I was given the pamphlet.
Sure.
And then I started researching, and I was like, it's true.
Sure.
And so I lift weights. I have to. You know, if I didn't have the gym, you know, it really, you know, you go in there, you have a bad day, you know, and you can't win with weights, and you can just put your bad day into those weights.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah. Probably about 5-6 years ago, I did my EMT certification here in town, and I went through the whole course. And at the end, you had to do some ride-alongs, right? You had to do X amount of ride-alongs. And so I signed up some of these EMS buildings here, you know, and we would go on certain calls, you know, and you'd go to traffic accident, or you'd go to a guy flipped out and wherever, you know, east of town or something like that. And I remember even something minor of a lady fell on the treadmill, I would start to almost internalize it in a way, start to like feel it emotionally. And that's kind of why I asked that. And then I remember there was a day, the last day of my shadowing, I was supposed to go to Mandan. And Mandan is known as it's a very quiet spot. If you go to Mandan for the day, you're good. You're not going to get many calls. You just get to hang out, you know? And well, that day, so then they switched me to Bismarck, right? That same day was the day that quadruple homicide happened out there, that very same day. And so I just remember that. I remember thinking, that would have been me. I would have walked in on that. Like, not even, you know what I mean? Not knowing nothing about nothing, not having anything about anything. And these experienced paramedics that walked into the scene were incredibly traumatized for that for years.
Seeing one person die is traumatic.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think we're emotionally able to handle it. I mean, it affects everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah, there's still images that I can't get out of my head from 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it'll never leave my head.
We've been to a couple deaths together, a homicide, horrible homicide. And, you know, I'm a big, tough, tattooed weightlifter, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know,
right.
Nothing should have, but I left there and I was like, I feel horrible. Like this sucks. And I called her and I'm like, am I a pussy? Like, because this is really affecting me. And she's like, I'm glad you said something, because I'm feeling the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I had
it's
horrible
Yeah.
nightmares about that night. Like, and I was scared to say something.
I can still see the person's face because their face freezes. Their death face, like when they realize they're dying, their frozen death face, it freezes, and I can still see it.
And it took me forever to drive by, to patrol that area.
Yeah,
Like, I could not patrol that area.
because all their family lives in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even to this day, like, that was what, 3 years ago?
It was longer than that.
Longer than
I
that?
think so. Yeah.
Even to this day, when I patrol that area, like, her face still pops up in my head.
2018, 2019, or something like that.
Yeah, her face still pops in my head.
Yep.
Like,
Still, even though it's not there anymore, I drive by it and I still remember it. Like,
Yeah. Does it impact how you show up? Does it impact how you kind of operate? Does it impact how you approach a traffic stop? You know, does it make sense? You know,
every traffic stop I make, I always have an adrenaline dump.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter if it's random. It doesn't matter if I know there's a plug in the car. It doesn't matter if I'm stopping a known user. I always have an adrenaline dump because you just never know what's going to happen. They say you're rolling the dice on a traffic stop, and that may be the time that, you know what I mean? That may be the time that whoever you stop is going to kill you.
Your ticket's punched.
So you just never know.
How does your guys' families, do the family support what you guys do? And
well, yeah, big time. Like,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very
Great
supportive
support system.
Yeah.
of what I do.
Yeah. How about the agency as a whole? Pretty tight knit, good, you know, together and unity and
For the most part, especially our canine group,
Canine division. Yeah.
I'm honestly like, we're all kind of like family, you know, the 5 of us. I mean, we've been through a lot together. Me, her brother, and Kobe. We have been through a lot.
Yeah.
And the more crappy things you go through with together, like just the closer you become. Like I mean, we're all very close.
With the canine unit, do you guys get to kind of work pretty autonomously within the system as a whole? I mean, obviously it's what would the expression be? I mean, it's more of a special skill set in a way, you know, it's more sought after. Obviously there's less canines than there are officers, you know, so is it something that I suppose you have to really know the nuances of what you guys do very well in order to do it effectively, you know, like how comprehensive is the training even as well, you know, the relationship between you and the dog, you know?
Yeah. Our training with the dog is 3 to 4 weeks, depending on where you go. And it's all about building that bond with your dog and learning how to read the dog, because, you know, the joke is we're the dumb end of the leash, you know, the dog's doing all the work.
Sure.
We just need to be able to, because the dog can't talk.
Right.
So we have to be able to say, you know, this is what the dog is showing us.
Yeah.
So you know, we're always going to training. I have 3 months training coming up. I got to go to,
Yeah.
you know, and we're always going to training. It's continuous. It's not just like you go to the academy, you go to canine school. That's it. Like we always have to train.
How has the nature of law enforcement sort of evolved in the last 5 years? Because when you think about, I don't know, just when I think about things, right? I think about how the scope of even the country has changed.
I feel
right?
like it's gotten harder. I feel like people hate us more.
Yep.
Do you think that's because of more of a local thing, or do you think that's just the nature of
The media.
sure.
Media?
Yeah.
And even though we're out in public all the time, you know, sometimes we do stuff in Bismarck's, you know, wherever we go, like, I don't believe that we're as hated as we believe, but the media makes us feel like everyone hates us.
Sure.
You know, that we're all murderers.
We're all racist.
We're all racist, you know, like,
Right.
and it's not like cops are going to 1 million calls a day and helping people every day.
Yep.
And, you know, a lot of the old time cops are against body cams, you know, because they might have been doing something wrong. But body cams have saved me from more complaints than I've never gotten in trouble because of a body cam.
Sure.
They have saved me so many times. Because like I've had a 45-minute long complaint for a 5-minute interaction, and none of it was true. And that body cam saved me.
Yeah, I'm all for body cams.
Yeah, they save us more than they get us in trouble. And you know, with YouTube and all this stuff, like it does expose cops that are doing bad
For sure.
And you know, our biggest thing is we have to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And you know, I know us as a group, our canine group, like we hold each other accountable.
Yes, we do.
You know, if somebody makes a mistake, we're like, hey.
We pull each other aside and be like, "You, don't do that next time."
Right.
Yeah.
I think that that's really important. I mean, I think there's just the idea of policing themselves, right? And then, you know, since, you know, whatever, George Floyd, right? And the defund the police movement, you know, and again, everything I'm saying is my opinion. It's not MHA recovery. It's me speaking as me right now, you know, and as kind of the country was navigating that and the unrest that happened nationwide and this idea. And I know that there were places that actually did defund police and
they're kind of, now they're hurting
100%. Now it's, we need to fund the police, you know. Here's my genuinely my opinion. You know, I mean, my political party aside, I was always against this defund the police movement. I thought it was an emotion based reaction.
100% it was.
That should have been thought more maybe analytically. My opinion is the complete opposite. I always thought that police officers, if this is an issue, then more resources need to be allocated to train the police officers. I mean, that's genuinely the thing that I thought, because of course you don't defund them, you know, because that doesn't solve the problem. You know, it just makes one problem bigger, you know? And, I don't know, as it was kind of getting put back together, it just never made sense to me that the road that we took of law enforcement and sort of crucified them.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I know a canine dude in Chicago that has worked the hood his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to him, and he said the past couple of years, the hood's been the safest place in Chicago.
Sure.
Because everybody's out in the other parts of Chicago committing crime because they're short on officers. The cops that are there are so scared to do anything that they're just being reactive. I mean, that's a prime example. All these big cities, Portland, Seattle.
Sure.
You know,
I grew up in Portland.
They're hurting.
Yep.
You know, because of these decisions.
I agree. You know, I also, but at the same time, this is again my opinion. The career of law enforcement holds tremendous responsibility. You know, and a law enforcement officer has the ability to completely alter somebody's life.
Oh yeah.
And for all time, even through a simple mugshot, you know, that can disqualify somebody from a career that they wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's, there's things that you can do that can be taken away, but something that is on the internet, for example, is there forever. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so my opinion as well, it's kind of is that I don't think law enforcement get to have a bad day. And in a sense of acting unethically because of that responsibility that is placed on them. Right. Mm-hmm. And that, again, that's just my opinion, you know, like that doesn't make, you know, me exempt from them as well. You know, like the work we do has tremendous impact on somebody. Like I could come in with a shitty attitude, speak down on a client, whatever, they leave, something bad happens, and this opportunity is ruined forever, right? Like that's the responsibility that we have to accept within what we do. And I do feel like it's the same way with law enforcement. You know what I mean? Because it's just, this is the job. We signed up for this responsibility. And I think that we have to accept it, and we have to really hold ourselves to that standard, you know?
I think a big thing that people need to remember though is, like, all cops are human.
100%.
Like, we're human. We're not robots in suits. Like, we're human. We have feelings. We have emotions, and you know, and sometimes we let those emotions get the you know, get the best of us.
Do you guys do kind of the how do you handle it? Let me just ask that. I guess, how do you handle it with like de-escalation training and like, I don't even know. I mean, and I'm just curious, like, because I don't want to say that I'm holding you guys to a standard that I don't hold myself to. I also, just like you, man, like I am not perfect at that by any stretch.
That's what I was going to mention, talking about defunding the police. I just came back from a training in Washington for critical response team. And it's about mental health and responding to individuals who struggle with mental illness.
For sure.
And it opened my eyes on how quick law enforcement is to go hands-on with individuals that they don't understand, or individuals who are deaf.
Yeah.
Or, for example, if somebody's deaf and law enforcement's telling them to get on the ground or put their hands behind their back, and they're not complying, they tase them or go hands-on, but that person's deaf. It just opened my eyes on how undertrained we are. Like, we don't have any de-escalation training. Like, it's because we're defunded. We train use of force.
Yeah.
We train firearms.
Yeah.
We do taser training.
Yep.
But we don't do de-escalation training.
Sure.
That's something that we all need to do.
Yeah. It's something that we have to do here too.
Yep.
I mean, genuinely, you know, I think one of the really important things, I mean, when Des kind of brought up, like, we had been trying to have you guys on for a while. I think it was just trying to get through
months ago,
the thing, you know, and even in our work as well, understanding how important, like how much of an asset, I believe that we could be towards, you know, what you guys do. and as well, like reciprocate that if that's the direction that it goes, you know what I mean? But even having like that de-escalation, because you're right, like somebody just might be coming down, you know what I mean? Somebody might have just been thrown out. Somebody might have just like, there's 1,000,001 different reasons as to why somebody is having a bad day. Do you get what I'm saying?
Wicked meth binge. We were at one a couple of years back where, she stabbed somebody and she's seeing dead people and there's dead bodies in her car and there's demons talking to her. And, we're just trying to make sense to her. I personally don't believe she was a threat to anyone. She was far enough away. She had a knife to her throat, like you talk to them. Like if you got to spend all day talking to them to get them to not stab themselves to where you don't also have to hurt them, I would rather do that than utilize force on somebody that's having a wicked mental episode like that. Like there's no reason. And, I can't speak on how other people acted, but that was my mentality. Like we can waste. There's 20 cops out here. She's not a threat to any of us. Just talk to her.
If we got to waste, she wasn't trying to hurt us.
Yeah. She has a knife to her throat. Like if you got to waste, like I said, if you got to waste all day long talking to them, you waste that time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like to get them to not hurt themselves. And luckily she's okay, but
yeah.
Again, that's where the de-escalation versus the use of force came in, and we used the de-escalation tactics.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any training, but it was just...
We just tried to connect to her.
Us being human.
Just be people.
We just tried to connect to her on a human level because we know her.
Yeah.
Like,
That's cool.
And promising her, like, if you come with me, like, I promise nobody's going to hurt you, you know? And...
I was, 10 years ago when I sobered up, I was in a bad spot. I was in a really bad way. And my idea, I was living in the Motel 6 up here. And my idea was just to go to the overpass and climb the fence and throw myself off head first, And so I would walk up there in a brownout, cause I would remember, you know what I mean? I would stand there, and I did that several times. And at least once I woke up in a jail cell one morning, cause that's where I'd been. And I was just taken in from there. I don't really recall the circumstances the night before, but another time the cop showed up and just kind of talked to me, for a while. And it's interesting is we can have such preconceived notions about not even a people, about an idea, right? About an identity as a law enforcement officer. But when the rubber meets the road, I have had more impactful conversations with those people than maybe anybody else at that time when I was going through that, because there's obviously the sense of security that I received from it, right? I think it was this idea of this individual is better than me. Nate is a better person than me. He's in this spot. He has these accolades. Brit has excelled in this career to get to this point. They're intelligent, they're articulate, they're charismatic, they're caring, they're tough, they have the bravado. And at the same time, they're taking time out of their day to sit and talk to a nobody like me. And while this is probably going to mean everything to me, it's probably a daily occurrence in what they do, right? And I think when you strip that down, right, as an individual who comes in here, it's hard over the years to hold on to those same ideas, right? Instead, they showed up as humans, right? They showed up in street clothes, and they're telling us how they feel, right? And that's what we are in the end, right? We're humans.
We're all human.
You know what I mean?
And when it comes to what you're saying, how you'd look at us or whatever, they're super good person, they're accolade, all this.
Yeah.
We screw up too.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're all imperfect and we all do dumb things, and, I'm sure everybody's dealt with some type of addiction, whether it be drugs, alcohol, gambling, anything, like food.
For sure.
So yeah, we all struggle.
Yep.
So
how about the best day? What's the best day you guys have had?
Just like I said, when I know that, like, I legit know I saved somebody's life.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've had a couple scary experiences where a baby's been
Sure.
not breathing or something like that, and I've been given that baby, and that is such a scary experience.
Yep.
But when you're just lucky enough to help and you leave, like, man, you feel good.
Yeah.
Like,
Or when somebody that I dealt with a lot comes up to me and they're sober
yep,
and thanks me.
yep, thanks me.
I was gonna say you guys probably get that a lot.
Did somebody
Yeah.
hug me in a
Yeah.
parking lot at a grocery store?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you feel good because you're like, because as a whole, you know, we can't save everybody,
But
but
saving
the small percentage that we do help or try to help,
They-
and we see them succeed,
they
like
can
it.
influence
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about your guys' so outside of work, you guys do kind of your own little initiatives as well. Do you guys want to talk about those a little bit? With the weightlifting competitions and the
I just try and encourage people to compete.
Sure.
And, I mean, just from personal experience, I'm not good at sports, you know,
Sure.
but I'm really good at weightlifting.
Yeah.
And I try and encourage other people to try it
Yeah.
and to compete, because it is scary to go out there in front of however many people there are and maybe fail or, you know, look stupid, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's scary to go out there and do it. And the feeling you get when you get out there and you do succeed, and that everybody's cheering for you, even the people you're competing against. Because in the end, a powerlifting strongman, you're attempting to be better than you were the last time. And it's just a really cool experience to go out there and face your fears and just put it all out there. And so I really try and encourage to everybody. I mean, I know fitness is really big with a lot of the people in recovery. And so I always like, hey, you know, you should try it. You should try it. You should try it, you know, and I'll help you. You know, I'll try and be there at the competition if I can to help you with it. I'll try and help you with certain things. I'll try and teach you certain things just to, you know, help get you there. And if, you know, I don't coach, but I'll point you in the direction of people that I do know that coach.
Yep.
To help you.
How about the discipline? How did you instill that within yourself?
Lifting is easy.
Sure.
You know, when I have a competition that I'm going to do, I sacrifice time at home to be at the gym. And that's easy to me. And well, once you get into the routine, it's really easy. But like, I just came back from a month. I was in the Philippines for a few weeks. And so I haven't been in the gym for a month. And like I was supposed to go back Memorial Day week, and the excuses that my brain came up with
For sure.
to not get out of bed, you know, and to go to the little Mexican trailer and get a burrito, you know what I mean? Like the excuses.
Life's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, man, I don't want to get up at 5.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to go lift weights after work, you know. And so once you get into the routine, it's easy. I struggle the most with eating because I like to eat. But when you're training for weightlifting and stuff, you have to eat a ton. And I get sick of eating all the meat. I get sick of eating all the eggs. You know, I like carbs. I mean, that's easy to eat. But I just hate, and you have to prep, because if you don't prep, we don't have a lot of options on the res.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the options they do have, they don't help. And so you have to, there's preparation, there's planning, and but the eating is definitely the hardest part. Just because I get sick of food. You eat, you know, a big chunk of meat and a big chunk of carbs, and then in 2.5 hours or 3 hours, when you're not even hungry again, you have to eat again. And then it's just a process.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the discipline for me.
Yeah. How about you, Britt?
I'm a big advocate for mental health.
Cool.
So the initiatives I'm working on now is I'm in college for psychology.
Good.
I want to get my substance abuse certificate.
Okay.
I feel like jail doesn't do anything for people. I want to reach out to those that are struggling with substance abuse and get them the help that they need, obviously. And especially those that look like me, because I know I hear it a lot from reservation people that they're tired of people coming in with fancy degrees and they don't know the res life. And they get a counselor who looks like them and has lived that res life and knows that res life and the struggles. Maybe they'll trust me. And maybe I can't save everybody. If I get my degree, and maybe I can just save one or two people.
I think, look, if we could cure, if there was a pill, that we could all take and we'd be cured of all this stuff, we would bottle it and sell it and principles be damned. And that's what we would do. And these things are here, my opinion, because people do die. And we're here because people do die. And these programs are in place because people do die.
Yep.
And we can do everything we possibly can do. And trust me, we can do a lot. You guys can do a lot. There is a lot out there for an individual. We have 140 employees.
Wow.
Dedicated. We have 300 to 400 clients at any given time. All MHA clients. We've seen our numbers go down of overdoses, so we know, we like to believe anyway, that things are working at some point to some degree, In the same breath, what we cannot give is the willingness to somebody to change.
They got to want it.
100%.
Yeah.
You can't. And I appreciate what you said about jail not working, I agree. I
We're
do.
just releasing them back to their environment.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. I don't think jail is always the right thing by any stretch. I also do believe, again, I do believe in accountability.
Yeah.
I do believe that we we have to accept responsibility for the things that we've done in our life, good or bad. It's just how it goes, And if we're able to do that, the quicker we accept that, the quicker these things happen, the better off we are as just an individual, as a people, as a species, I certainly don't advocate for jail. I would much rather somebody come to treatment. I would much rather somebody make their amends doing the things. I mean, God, the stories we've had of individuals that came in here with indictments, years over their head lurking, right? What's the formula? Treatment, sober living, put that time together, go through this stuff, start showing up in their life, start repairing the damage they've caused to their family, their friends, start showing up to work, start putting back in, giving back to the community. 2-3 years later, when they go see that judge for sentencing, it's done.
Turn their life around.
We're square. You know what I mean? Just keep doing what you're doing. That's an amazing outcome,
Yep.
And that is what we look for. That's what we shoot for. It's happened. I can't even tell you how many times it's happened here.
Yep.
Many, 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 many times it's happened here. And it's really incredible. It truly is. And then you got 40, 50 people going to the sentencing just from here, just supporting, it's beautiful. It truly is.
I think what really helps here too is just the association. If you're hanging out with people that all have the same goal as you, to stay
100%.
sober and stay healthy, you may still struggle. I mean, you're still going to have hard days.
Yep.
But
Yep.
You have that person like, hey, let's go to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
let's go do this. Let's go, whatever spiritual thing that you guys do. Hey, let's go do this. Let's go to AA or NA or whatever, you know, if you have that person or those people there that are encouraging you to do that, it's going to be easier for you to stay sober versus you go home, you go to the casino,
Yeah.
you see your old friends,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, you have everybody that's struggling, like hang out with people that have good goals because those are going to help you to, you know, to get better.
Yeah.
And to live the life that you want versus hanging out with the people that have no goals. They just want to use you because you have a car or whatever, you know, like hang out with the people that want to encourage you to do things good and it will be easier.
Britt, I'll start with you. Last question. What would you say to somebody out there right now? Maybe this is a 2-part question. What would you say to them about why you do what you do, and to the individual who is struggling out there and who may have an idea of who you are and what you do without having an idea? What would you say to them? And then how would you encourage them moving forward?
Why I do what I do, because it could have easily been me.
Sure.
I did struggle with alcohol before. I lived a reservation life. I know the struggle. But fortunately, I had somebody who cared. Like I said, it could have easily been me. I could easily been in somebody else's shoes. I could have been a user. I could have been in prison. I could be dead.
Yep.
The reservation life doesn't care who you are, what type of family you come from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm that type of cop where I try to put myself in their position and I try to connect with them.
Yeah.
Because, and I can't say it, I've say it over and over again, that could have easily been me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I came from a domestic violence home, and like so I take domestic violence cases very serious. I try to be that adult for those kids that I needed. And for your second part of your question, everybody deserves a second chance.
Sure.
It's not too late.
Yep. Appreciate that. Thank you. How about you, Nate?
I came from, my dad was a meth addict and alcoholic. He was abusive. Me and my mom escaped when I was a kid. And I remember there was a cop, we called him Big Tony, and he showed up and helped us. So I've always remembered how he made me feel like I felt safe. And so same, like I see these people in these same circumstances, and you know, I know the stuff, some of the stuff that they've been through, and for whatever reason, I didn't go down the same path as my dad. It's made me hate drugs and alcohol because of what it did to my, you know, my family and my childhood. And so that's kind of, you know, my motivation for doing what I do. Mm-hmm. I've had to learn my mentality has changed towards addicts because of the hate for my father. I now understand better how hard addiction is to beat. And, you know, I used to look at it, it's a choice.
Sure.
But now I understand, you know, how hard it is and how everything in your body is wired to go that way. And sometimes it's not just it's just how you try and survive. And so my message to everybody out there is like she said, you guys all deserve a second chance. You all deserve to have a good life and to get your kids back and to be happy, you know, because I know when you're in that addiction life, you're not happy and you're struggling and you're at the bottom of a hole. And, you know, we're not the enemy. You know, the only people that I really want to get are the people that are the real predators that are coming to our area and bringing the drugs here. Like those are the people that I do not like because they destroy everything. They're the reason that we had a death this week. You guys are not my enemy. You guys are not, I don't want to put you in jail. I don't want to put you in prison. I would rather you, cooperate with us and then I can kick you loose. So that's kind of my thing.
I guess my thoughts are, as these things evolve, right? How these systems evolve, and as roles are defined and partnerships are defined, I genuinely believe that there should be, what the hell do I know? That there should be like an understanding between law enforcement and just organizations like MHA Recovery. Because when I look at MHA Recovery, I look at all the programs, right? You got Good Road and Healing Hearts and Pathways and Sober Living and et cetera, et cetera. And I always think of it as like a pillar, right? That's how I explain it. And you knock a pillar out and the structure collapses, right? One is not effective without the other. That's just how I believe. That's how I see it. I also look at that way as like with law enforcement and with the court system and with recovery organizations and with social service organizations. This thing, addiction, alcoholism, mental health, suicide, overdose, crime, all of that shit, it's still there. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're freaking talented and we're driven to decrease it and we're driven to be rid of it. But have we? No. You know what I mean? But you knock one of those pillars out again and that system collapses, that structure collapses. And I think it's really, really, it's telling. It says something to me that you guys take time on a Friday to come down here, and visit with us. Because actions will always show you people's intentions, actions will always show you what people think and what people believe. And I think you guys coming down here is a really firm indication of who you are as people, and also what MHA Drug Task Force is committed to doing, is committed to overcoming, and sort of the direction that it wants to go. So I really thank you guys for coming down. You guys are always welcome back. Love to have you on. Love to keep talking. Love to keep working with you guys, and see what we can do.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
guys.
us.
Yeah, thank you.
In this life we